Hi, this is Dr. Cook. We are now in week 4, and so I wanted to touch base with you to make sure that we're all on the same page and talk a little bit about what is up and coming. So please make sure you do the assigned reading in the textbook. I know it's easy to skip over thinking that it's not important, but Chapter 1 is absolutely crucial in moving forward over the next couple of weeks. Chapter 1 is appropriately entitled Introducing Your Problem. And lo and behold, that is what you're going to be doing next week and then taking this further over the rest of the semester. So modern scientific introductions serve one purpose. They pave the way for what is to follow. So as mentioned in the textbook, this is accomplished in basically 3 stages. In stage 1, you define the research territory. That's what they say in the text. What this really means is you are summarizing the state of knowledge in the scientific research from being studied. So you're going to do a literature review. You have to see what has been studied about your topic. What solutions have already been proposed? What hasn't been studied? Where are there areas that could lead to further study? So in terms of practical research, what we're going to be doing is looking at what has or has not already been studied. You'll be accomplishing this through what we call the literature review, and this is where you will review the databases and look for scientific studies related to your topic. So again, we looked at some case studies in the beginning just to sort of get you acquainted with this type of writing. You're going to need eventually 6 to 8 sources that all deal with your topic. The second stage that they talk about is establishing a limited problem. And as described in the text, you want to look for gaps or inconsistencies in what has already been studied in terms of your topic. These would be sort of good problem areas to study. Where you find inconsistencies or gaps, you could build upon those to continue your studies. So let me give you a practical example. So if I were looking at the problem or looking for a problem dealing with online courses, there's a lot of information in the literature about how to best structure an online course or like what features make them most successful. One gap, however, is in figuring out the ideal class size for an online class in order to maximize the effectiveness for both students and instructors. So how would you find these gaps? Well, in many of the research articles, when you look at the research articles, you'll find a section near the end called limitations. Scientists are really honest with their readers in that not everything has been studied. So as we are currently making decisions at the college, for example, on how large the classes should be, I actually did some research in the past couple weeks, and I found through a literature review of about 15 different sources that there actually has been little done in the area of researching the effectiveness of online courses based on class size. So the implications are that without this research to support a certain number, they could make class sizes as large as they want because there's no research that would refute this. So when you're going through the studies, look for the sectional limitations and see what still needs to be studied. And maybe that will give you an idea of an area that you can go and do some further research on. The third stage is to suggest or summarize your solution to the problem. And this stage happens after you've conducted not only the literature review, but you've also conducted the primary and secondary research. And this is what you'll be doing in the actual recommendation report. So looking at the chapter, if you specifically look at pages 4 and 5 of chapter 1, they go into quite a lot of detail as to how to find the topic and how to conduct the literature review. In practical terms, when it comes to your final paper, what the authors of the text call the research territory, which you can read about on page 5. This is actually going to be your literature review and the secondary research. So the primary and the secondary research is the so-called research territory. The secondary research, of course, is your literature review. Or the actual problem itself, is going to be the introduction of your paper, which is the problem statement. So we're going to call that, in our paper, we're going to call it the introduction. So there will be a very short paragraph with a little bit of background information, and really the last sentence is going to be your problem statement. And we're going to work on the problem statements a little bit later, but they do cover this in the chapter. And on pages 8 and 9, you want to be really, read those pages very carefully. So on pages 8 and 9, that's again where the author addresses how to find the actual problem. And the problem must be clearly stated and will come directly at the end of the introduction of your paper. So I want to point your attention to the top of page 11 in the text, and that's where the author addresses scientific introductions. So this is important for you to understand, as you're going to have to come up with your own introduction. And at the bottom of the page, the author addresses the so what technique. And I think this is really crucial in piquing one's interest in reading your paper. One thing I haven't looked at up here is the approach to solving the problem, and the approach really is the so-called research methods or the methodology, so you're going to outline those in your paper as well. Going back to the text, page 13, this is where they talk about attention getters, and everyone has had English 101, English 102, possibly English 121. Most papers have some kind of attention getter. They have to have the so what. You have to get the person interested in, even reading your paper. So read really chapter 1 carefully, highlight, annotate the text, take notes. So the next thing really is your topic idea, which may or may not include the problem statement. It depends on how far you are here. If you don't have a problem identified at this time, you'll need to start doing some of the research. Again, look for the limitations of the studies. Look and see what the researchers have already said that they don't have the answers for. See what problems have already exist in that field of study. Have there been lots of solutions proposed? What are some of the limitations or gaps in the studies? And, what can you pick up and run with? We're getting near the end of week 4, and I really want you to start honing in on some kind of topic. A number of people have said they've been having difficulties navigating D2L, so I want to kind of give you just a little brief overview of that. I think once you understand the layout of the course on D2L, it will be easier for you to follow. And it actually is a top to bottom progression that you're going to use. So we started really with the overview. You went into then getting started and worked through that material. I put on a link for general questions if you have questions about topics. And then really we were into Unit 1. And if you look at it, and we start at the top, this is the way D2L is structured, that you just go again from top to bottom. So, first you have a unit description, then you have the timeline, then we have the assignment due dates, a little introduction to Unit 1, and just going down. So we've actually gone all the way up to topic selection end of week 2. So that's where we are. It really is topic selection, and that's when I talked about it, but it's not going to be due until next week. So then you have your topic selection board, discussion board, There you will respond to classmates. There's the dates for it. Some people were saying they were having difficulty figuring out how to do that. You can get to the discussion board several ways. Here's one way is just to click on the link, and then obviously start it. There's the question, and you simply click start a new thread. That's one way to get to the discussion board. D2L has several ways. If you go to activities and discussions, you can then search for the area topic selection. Click on topic selection, and there we have the same thread. So there are multiple ways on D2L to get to something, but again, if you just work from top to bottom and everything is in order in which it has been assigned and is due. So we have the discussion board for the topics, then you will have your planning memo, and then there is a sample planning memo, and then we're at finished Unit 1. Unit 2 is ready to go. I have the description on there, you have the timeline, the due dates, and then basically you have a literature review that you're going to be submitting. And that's going to take a couple weeks. Then the big part is Unit 3. I still don't have everything on there yet for Unit 3 because I'm transferring it over from Blackboard. But Units 1 and 2 are now completely on there. So just go from top to bottom, follow the schedule. I would print out, if you go back to getting started and syllabus, I would print out this weekly schedule so that you see the whole semester, and then you can go in specifically to each unit and look at each unit what is due. So we'll go back. I'll go to Unit 2 since that's what's coming. Look at the timeline for Unit 2. I also have the due dates listed for all of your assignments. Sometimes it takes a little while to preview these things, but there you go. So Unit 2 is kind of short. There's only a couple things that you're doing. So you shouldn't have too much problem with D2L. I know it's a learning curve, but I actually kind of like it. I think it's a lot better. I think it looks nicer. For me, it does a lot more. And I really think it's more intuitive for the student once you know, okay, so we go from top to bottom. And there's an arrow button. If you click these arrows, it then takes you to whatever is next. So if you are struggling with it, please make an appointment to see me. I think I'm going to set up some dates where we can have some conferences one-on-one and do it through video and talk about your topics. So I can walk you through the topics and hear your ideas. And we might have a session for the entire class. But please don't get frustrated. Don't get lost. If you need help with D2L, just let me know. I'm always in my office almost all days on Thursday and Friday. Sometimes I have meetings to go to, but if you shoot me an email, I can always meet with you through Zoom, which is a video chat. So I hope this clarifies it. Again, read Chapter 1. Chapter 1 and the book is really important, even though there might not be questions about it or an assignment specifically designed and geared towards us. Obviously, it's really very important because figuring out your topic, figuring out the introduction, knowing what you're going to research, that all is coming up next. So if you have any questions, just email me. Thanks for listening.